I'm excited this morning because I get to tap into my historical background
Yeah.
and my teaching, my teacher
Gift.
hat. I'm so excited.
Hat.
This morning we were talking about the Tower of Babel, and as Shane and I were researching, a lot of history came up. And I was like, dude, Shane, this is what I teach my kids. And I like gave him a whole history lesson in 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
he's like, oh, okay.
That's
But
awesome.
luckily he likes history. So
like-
he was like actually engaged. And I was like, man,
I
I
love
wish my
it.
kids were this engaged. But I'm really excited because historically, the very first civilizations, they started around rivers. Okay. And does anybody know the first civilization? I'll give you a hint. It was in the Fertile Crescent, which is in Mesopotamia, current day Iraq. Does anybody know the first civilization? Started in 2300 BC, went to 1900 BC. They are known for, I'll give you some things that they're known for. They're known for things like cuneiform, which is the first writing form. They invented the wheel. And then we're going to talk about ziggurats. Or they're also known for the ziggurats. It's a Sumer. Sumer. Okay, so spelled Sumer. My kids always spell it with two M's, and I'm like, no, that's summer. That's what you like. It's Sumer. So we always laugh about that. But the Sumerians started, they're the first civilization, and they started around the Tigris and Euphrates River, which historically you want to be set around a river because it gives you life. We were talking about a little bit about the river today, right? It gives you water. Water helps you grow crops. It helps you feed your animals. It helps you drink water. You don't have to go out far and like find fresh water. You can do all kinds of things with water. You can build it. You can build with it. You can like get the mud together and make bricks and things like that. And we're going to see that today. And so water was very, very important. And that's where we're going to head today. The Sumerians were known for a ziggurat. And a ziggurat, if you look on your message notes, which are in our app. I forgot to mention that. It's in our app. There's a picture of a ziggurat, and a ziggurat is a temple. And what this temple would do is it would be all the way up on the hill, the highest peak of the hills. And the whole reason is that people would see it and go, okay, this is known. We worship our gods. Okay. And a ziggurat is kind of like a pyramid, and there's steps that go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to get to the highest point. And so that's what the Sumerians were known for. That's how they worship their gods. This is the kind of temple that they built. And so when we look at the Tower of Babel, that's actually what they're building. They're building a ziggurat. Okay, so if you want to check it out, it's on your notes. There's a little picture. It might be really small, but there it is.
That's what it is.
So that's what we're looking at today. I give you a short history lesson. So the Tower of Babel.
Awesome. So in Genesis 11, we see Noah's descendants, like we talked about last week with Pastor Kat. They settled along that river. Unfortunately, they forgot the lessons that the great flood had brought. And they wanted to disobey God. They wanted to. He commanded them to scatter the earth, occupy the earth, but they wanted to stay together in one civilization. So instead, they started to build this Tower of Babel. Like Pastor Kat said, it's a ziggurat, and it's small. It's supposed to be small, but they was trying to reach the heavens. They was trying to make it bigger than these buildings we see right now, right? And so the people thought that they could do what they wanted to, but they quickly learned that God is sovereign over everything, and ultimately His will is going to be done on earth. That's like we have our prophetic word today. And so in our text, we're going to be reading Genesis 11, verses 1 through 9. So again, Pastor Kat said, for those of you online, you can follow us on our app. We have physical notes here today, but the app is the best place because you can take notes. And if you didn't take notes on that history lesson, you just missed out on a jewel. All right, so here we go.
Test next week.
The Tower of Babel. Yeah, everybody pay attention from now on. But at one time, all the people of the world spoke the same language and used the same words. As the people migrated to the east, they found a plain in the land of Babylonia and settled there. They began saying to each other, "Let's make bricks and harden them with fire." In this region, bricks were used instead of stone, and tar was used for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let's build a great city for ourselves with a tower that reaches into the sky. This will make us famous and keep us from being scattered all over the world." But the Lord came down to look at the city and the tower the people were building. Look, he said, the people are united, and they all speak the same language. After this, nothing they set out to do will be impossible for them. Come, let's go down and confuse the people with different languages, that they won't be able to understand each other. In that way, the Lord scattered them all over the world, and they stopped building the city. That is why the city is called Babel, because that is where the Lord confused the people with different languages. In this way, he scattered them all over the world. And so it's a short story. I'm pretty sure it's kind of like Noah. It's a very, almost like a children church story. We don't really spend too much time on this story. It's so short. We get it, right? Everybody was confused. Don't make any kind. But when we really, the beauty of what we're doing in Genesis and what we're going as we're going through the Bible is we can take a real deep dive into what this story really means. And so when you read the verse over, everything was man-made, right? And they were making a man-made monument, and that they thought that they were a match for God or even higher than God, right? But what it says in our notes is that we are no match for God. So the Tower of Babel was a man-made, and it represented both pride and disobedience. And this is why God had to bring different languages and had to confuse them. I think it's crazy how at one point in time, we all spoke the same language, all right? Let's just take, for example, our country, right? The U.S. We all speak English, right? But when you come to Hawaii, you probably speak more Pidgin, right?
Oh, I was going to say Tagalog.
What? No, that's not even English. Okay, if I go New York, I'm probably going to speak English with a New York accent. No, what? You're going to have that accent, right? You go down south, you got the southern accent. They say stuff different in English, but they all speak the same language. I'm thinking in here, that's how it probably was. They all spoke one language, maybe different dialects, or they use different words, right? But they could generally understand each other. But you see how communication today, what is the most important thing for relationships? They always say it. Communication is a key to all relationships.
Yep.
Why do you think that's said? If all God did was mess up our communication. Now, look at the motive behind why we were doing what we were doing.
Yeah.
We wanted to get to heaven. We wanted everyone to notice me. We wanted to build something to be noticed. And in fact, they chose to disobey God and not scatter what they were called to do. And God, all he did, what we deserved, because we already got a flood. This is not too long from the flood.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had the flood. We disobeyed that. We disregarded that. We should have deserved one more flood. But thank God he keeps to his word.
Yes.
He never bring another flood.
Yeah.
He could have struck us down. He didn't do that. All he did was mess up our communication. And so what does that mean here for our church? Our language, our mission as a church is to reach the lost. That's the language that we should be speaking today. Our prophetic word is not something we don't play around with. We're supposed to be like the word says, the priests who go first into the Jordan River and make the way, show the way, so that the rest of the people who are to come or the next generation to come can cross and reach the promised land.
I think the beauty of what you're talking about here is the mission, right? Our language, reach the lost. We all get to do it in our own way. And I think that's the cool part. So when we go back, right, and you're talking about like how we all spoke the same language, maybe just a little different dialect, like just a little different words or, Southern drawl or whatever. You reach the lost by like you playing basketball or you hanging out with the youth, right? For maybe some of us, it's like getting a cup of coffee, or I don't know, if you like surfing, right? Maybe Brian, it's going to be like take people on your boat and go fish for fish. Ahi, I don't know. Man. And that's the cool part. So we all get to speak a little different dialect in that sense, but we're all speaking the same language. And that, I think that's a really awesome thing, that we get to kind of tap into our own gifts, our own what we like, what we, I guess, avoid what we don't like, right? And still reach that mission of reaching the lost.
Oh, yeah. And so, one of the things that I got is we need to be present. We need people's presence.
Oh, yeah.
It's so important. Every person that was there at the Tower of Babel had unfortunately, they were doing it for a selfish reason. But everyone had one goal in mind and one vision in mind,
Yep.
and it was so great. So, we have that perspective that when we get together and we offer, like, hey, let's make these bricks. I think we could do it. And they probably had to plan, of course, a structure how to make it so high, and it was getting there. But because it was selfish and it was self-made, right? And we make God like a human, or even less than, or we take him out of our life completely. Sometimes we experience the divine crisis, right? And we need that to come back to God, unfortunately. Sometimes we need that, right? I don't know. We have Sammy, 7, Jojo's 5, right? We can literally tell them something. Okay, I won't just use them. I'll use myself. Okay, you can literally tell me something, right? A great flood will come, and then the next moment, it's forgotten, like it didn't even happen, right? And the other person on the other side is like, "Brah, I just told you not to do that. I just told you."
Let's all stare at people who do that.
Oh wow. Awkward. Yeah. Okay, so it's important that we don't make these man-made monuments in our lives. We don't make the towers in our lives. Right now, for our church, what we're called to do, we need your presence. We need you to be present. If you can't make it on Sunday, come on Friday. You can't come on Friday, come on Sunday. Get on Zoom. There's like no excuse for not showing up.
Yeah.
And and offering, not just showing up, but offering. Like Donna had a great word this morning. Put our faith into action now. We prayed it. Now we got to get out there and do it. A great example. Friday night we had Brittany's kids, and we were able to do the youth group right there, right?
That's awesome.
And Skylar's, right? Everyone's getting tall. I'm like surprised. As she's growing, right? She does this drawing because apparently she's an artist. She won an award at school, and I was amazed at what she made, right? And so Petey's been asking about this drawing, and I was like, "Oh, do you think you could do that?" And immediately she said, "Yes, I could draw that." And so that just showed me, again, the faith, the
That's awesome.
childlike faith, right? I have a gift. I can do it. Let me offer that. And now that gives her a significance that she has in this church, that it's not so far away, or, oh, Pastor Kat can only do certain stuff. Now she's empowered to do something great for our church. So, and every time you see that picture, you know that Skylar was the one who did that.
I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
It's going to be good.
And that's what we're working for. We're working towards that. And whatever you can offer means so much to our church, means so much to our families, it means so much for the next generation. And so we're pushing for that. We want this to continue to happen. Let's make that our language. Let's reach the lost. What have you done? How's your small group doing? What have you guys been praying for? Thanksgiving's coming up. What are you doing for Thanksgiving? And that's not to demean each other, like my small group is better than yours. It's to encourage one another. Let's continue to get out there.
I guess the word that I got right there was spur each other on, right? Like we're trying to help each other, like, oh yeah, it is coming up. What can we do? And there's some really good ideas that we have coming out. So start thinking and praying about it. It says our own man-made monuments will be torn down. We need to let go of our old lifestyle ways and habits. If we're going to go out and we're going to reach the lost, then we cannot hold on to certain things. We have to tear down these man-made monuments that we hold on to. For some people, right, it's the cars, it's the money, it's the fame, it's all these things. And I was thinking, Shane asked me last night, what's the man-made thing in your life? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And I spent a while actually thinking about it. And as I was thinking about it, God said it's your self-sufficiency. He said, your parents, my parents, and I love my parents. They're wonderful people. But they always drilled into us, because there's 3 girls, always drilled into us, you better be self-sufficient, you better be independent, and you better not rely on no man. That's the thing. Like, you better not rely on a man, you better have a job, you better know how to cook, you better know how to clean. If you can, you better buy a house, or some kind of apartment or some kind of property. Like, you cannot rely on a man. Like,
Yeah.
if we die, and who's gonna take care of you? You gotta take care of yourself. And so I was raised like that. That is my DNA, hardcore. And PD always is like, "Oh gosh, you're so stubborn." I am stubborn. I am beyond stubborn. But that's who I am, and that's because that's how I was raised. And so now I'm starting to learn you can't be so self-sufficient. We've been talking about this idea of interdependence, not independence. And we have to be interconnected, and we have to reach out, and we have to ask for help. And the saying goes, right, stupid is an art, right? So you always got to learn how to ask. And I'm like, well, I hate asking. And he's like, why don't you like asking? Why don't you ask people? And I'm like, well, and he's like, that's excuses. And I'm like, well, so that's my tower that I have to continue to work to break down, is this self-sufficiency. And I have to continue to go out and ask, and I have to put myself out there and kind of unwire all the things that my parents literally drilled into my head. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, when I reflect, I was telling Kat, when I reflect, I'm conceited. I'm like way too much into myself. I don't know how many of you guys pass the mirror. Don't lie. When you pass the mirror, you take an extra look. I'm like that, right? And so I cut my hair. I was telling Kat, I cut my hair this week, and all my barbers are Thai, so they have the Thai channel on. Thai news, Thai singing shows, everything Thai. Basically, the king or the leader of the Thai, there's a big ceremony. I was telling her, everyone was wearing yellow. Everyone had the Thai flag, right? And I was like, oh, I wonder what they're doing. I don't understand. And then they revealed it, right? There's a big shrine. It kind of looked like the ziggurat. And on top of the shrine had a statue of the guy, right? And I'm like, and they're all praying to it. I was like, wow, there's thousands of people. And I was like, oh, that's like the literal image of making a self-made monument for yourself. It was down to the detail. Every wrinkle in his face was in that statue. And it made me think and reflect on myself, how much times I put myself up there. And I asked people to come and see me. Look at me. Look at what I've done. Social media puffs that up to the 10,000th time, right?
Yeah.
And so basically, don't replace God. Do not replace God. Don't put yourself up so high. It's not necessarily bad to have ambition, to be self-sufficient. But once you replace God and your self-worth above God, that's when it became a problem. Yeah. And so it says, do not add to what I command you. Do not subtract from it. But keep the commands of the Lord your God that I give you. And that's from Deuteronomy 4:2.
Yeah, wow. I think that's one of the things that we want you to do this week, is to really think about what are the man-made monuments in your life. Like, what are you holding and replacing God with? Because the next point is God's will be done on this earth. It doesn't matter who we are or who we think we are. It is God who is sovereign, and his will be done. Right. And so, like the people, right, Noah's descendants, that tower was never finished because he confused them just like that. They all started speaking different languages, and they're like, wait, we were all speaking the same language. Like, what are you saying? Exactly. Right? And so it doesn't matter what you want. It doesn't matter what we want. It's what matters is what God wants. And he's going to punish disobedience and pride. It's so interesting that when you go back to the verse, it says that this will make us famous. That's pride.
Yeah.
The people are doing all this to make them famous.
Yeah.
And then it keeps us from being scattered all over the world. That was the commandment that God gave to Noah's people. Go and rescatter the earth. And they're like, nah. Let's all stay together. And so he's going to punish all of their behavior, but that means that he's going to punish our behavior too. It says, don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking others as better than yourselves. And so we really need to be careful about what we think about ourselves and what we're doing, because we're going to get punished. I know we like to talk about the light, fluffy stuff, Jesus and the Lamb, right? And he loves all the little children, and bring all the little children to me, right? Yeah. And he is. I'm not saying he's not. He is that. But he also is a very just God. He's a very jealous God. And that's who he is. And that's exactly what he says here. I'm a jealous God. And if you're not going to follow me, let's do this, right? Game on.
Exactly. Yeah. So as we close, the thing with the Tower of Babel, it's what we can see is that the people were once united, speaking one language, having one vision, and God came, separated them, and that kind of created a distance. They started to create that distance from God. And now today in 2022, we have many self-made, man-made monuments, whether it's physical or just in our personal lives, our professional lives. And now we need to come back together to have that same language, one vision of reaching the lost. And getting into our small groups, praying for the people, praying for the one. We only have to reach one and we double in size. Right? And we're not about just the numbers, but we're into making transformation and impact, inspiring other people's lives and beginning that relationship with God. Because one day I want to see them, our friends, our neighbors, our co-workers in heaven. And that's the mission that we're pressing towards. That's the tower we want to build for God, for people to see the glory of Him and all that He can do in your life. And if we want to communicate that from our children, take time in your dinner times. Take times when you on your drives with them, right? Speak to them, teach them these values. The youth were doing the same. The young adults, the elders, I won't say the S word, the elders, right? We want to continue. This is all that we're going to be speaking about. I won't say it.
Oh.
And we're going to continue to do that.
I was like,
Wow. We're going to continue to do that. We're going to communicate that. We're going to drive that in. We're going to encourage each other to continue to build this tower for God. Let's do it different from the people back then in the past. Learn from them. Take notes, because we will be tested.
Yeah. In my notes, I wrote down one heart, one accord. There's that verse, right? One heart, one accord. That's what we need. It's the unification of all of us, even though we might speak a different language, that we're all unified in our mission, in our vision, which is here at Innovative Concepts, make disciples, reach the lost, multiply leaders, right? Like that is what we're doing, and that's what we have to get back to. And it doesn't matter how we do it. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter what the way you do it, but we got to do it. And I think that's what the cool thing is that we're going to see the youth do it different from the young adults.
Yeah.
Who's going to do it different from elders? Seems really that seems
really?
worse than seniors.
Okay.
Yeah, but
The adults, we'll just go with that.
older generation. No, I don't know. You know what I mean. It's gonna be different than how every group or every even person's it's gonna be different, and I think that's gonna be really great. But we really got to go back to the one heart, the one accord, the unity in our mission, in our vision, and that's going out and making disciples, going to reach the lost.
Yeah. So we're gonna have Pastor Davin come up and close us.
All right. Wow, what a great message. Very timely messages as we listen to the Bible or read the Bible, and then what we're going through currently in a season today. I heard Pat Jennings is on, my brother.
Hey.
Good morning. I was praying for you, bro. Please, can you text me your phone number, your new phone number? I was trying to call you, actually. I had your old phone number. So
That's cool.
that's God. Yes.
That's awesome.
That's what I said, the drizzle. We're getting the drizzle before the downpour.
That's awesome.
All right, so welcome. Thank you for joining us. Who else is on Zoom? Brittany, thank you for joining us again. Thank you for being in person. Who else is out there? Kalakoa, thank you for joining us.
Mommy and Christina.
Mommy and Christina, thank you for joining us. We're praying for Zane, praying for Tristan, McKenna. But thank you. It means a lot, if you can't be present, to log on to Zoom and Facebook Live. But hopefully, Pat Jennings, we see you again. Yeah, I've been praying for you.
That's cool.
Yeah, I would love to see you again.
That's awesome.
All right, so what we want to do in closing, in responding, can you guys break up into your small groups in the different pods, just so I can see, first of all, what you look like as a group, because maybe you guys don't match. And then what I want you guys to do is pray for families, people you're reaching out to. Now, when you pray, like for Shane and Chrissy, they have a big group at HK. You can just pray for overall the families, or you can just pray for them by last name. Okay, you don't have to be so what do you call that, legalistic, where I know I gotta pray for each name. Yeah, God knows. Okay, so there's a wisdom as our group, as our church gets bigger. You pray overall, cover all for the church. Unless God leads you, then you pray name by name. So why don't we do that? Why don't we just kind of spread out?
Before we pray, I wanted to do the giving opportunity really quickly. On your message notes, you should have a really cool picture. And it says, the generous will prosper. Those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. People curse those who hoard their grain, but they bless the one who sells in the time of need. And that's kind of where we're at in the time of need, that we should bless others. And if we have to sell things, I think that's what we're kind of talking about, right? To kind of fund the breakfast part. That we would sell things, and then kind of create a kitty. So it's a really timely verse that we're talking about. So please continue to give. And we just thank you so much for those who do recurring and who always give and being faithful in your giving. We're very, very grateful for that. And so let me pray for our tithes and our offerings, and then you can go back to discussing. Lord God, we just thank you so much for your blessings and giving us this prophetic word of an abundance, right? The harvest. And we know that there will be abundance in our finances and in this church. And so we look forward to that, but we thank you in advance for that, Lord. And we give you back just a little bit so that you can bless it. Use it to help others, Lord, to give glory to your name, and that you would ultimately be glorified in everything that we do. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. So don't forget to give.